What's up everyone, it's United Weather here. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the latest information on Tropical Storm Helene. We'll be taking a look at all the latest forecast models and the latest forecasts from the National Hurricane Center so you guys know what to expect with this storm as it moves towards the southeastern United States. So taking a look at the latest forecast here from the National Hurricane Center, this is as of 11 a.m. this morning. It is currently a tropical storm with 45-mile-per-hour winds and it's just sitting off the southwest coast of Cuba. It is expected to strengthen into a hurricane by sometime early Wednesday morning when it's just off to the east to the Yucatan Peninsula, and it's going to continue to move to the northeast over the next few days before eventually making landfall as a major hurricane with winds of 115 miles per hour sometime Thursday evening somewhere in the Big Bend area here in Florida as per the latest National Hurricane Center forecast. Now we do have hurricane watches up for the Big Bend area all the way extending down to Tampa. We also have tropical storm watches up for pretty much the entire central area of Florida. All of southwest Florida, basically the Keys, have tropical storm warnings up. We also have some hurricane watches, some tropical storm warnings up for the Yucatan Peninsula and areas in western Cuba. So if you were in any of those hurricane watches, you definitely should begin to prepare. You should have already begun to prepare, but if you haven't, do start preparing right now for the storm. You are going to be getting some sort of hurricane impacts from this, whether it be storm surge, heavy rain, strong winds. You will be impacted by this in some sort of way. Now, one of the worst parts about this storm is how large it's going to be, and those impacts, whether it be tropical storm or hurricane impacts, are going to spread very far out from the center of the storm. So even if you're not in the cone from the National Hurricane Center, you are still going to be feeling those impacts. And taking a look at the earliest reasonable arrival time of tropical storm force winds here, this is basically when you'll start feeling the impacts of the storm. You can see areas here like maybe Key West, Wednesday morning, you guys are already going to be feeling those tropical storm force winds. Areas along the very extreme southern coast of Florida, you guys are going to be feeling those effects by Wednesday evening. And by Thursday morning, pretty much all of Florida is going to be feeling some sort of impacts from this storm. So now going ahead and taking a look at the latest forecast model guidance here, you can see there is still a pretty large spread here, anywhere from the Gulf Coast of Alabama all the way down to, the Tampa Bay area, even a little bit further south of there, maybe the Sarasota area. And something to note here is that there is a cluster of stronger members here. So those dark red colors would be probably a major hurricane, and all of those members are further to the east compared to the weaker members over here in the yellowish colors that are further to the west. So that's definitely something we want to monitor, especially if you're along the coast area. The stronger the storm will be, the further to the east it'll be in the forecast cone, and the weaker it'll be, the further to the west it'll be in the forecast cone. So we definitely want to keep that in mind as we look at the updates over the next few days before this makes landfall. And as I mentioned yesterday, you can see it does get pretty far inland, and this would still be a tropical storm up here at these kind of orange yellowish colors. That would still be a pretty strong storm, even all the way up into Tennessee. Now, of course, the worst impacts with this are going to be on the eastern side of the storm. So, if it goes up like this, it splits kind of Georgia in the middle. The western half of Georgia is probably not going to see that many impacts. It'll rather be on the eastern side of Georgia. So again, that's also something we want to be monitoring as the storm heads north over the next few days and we get this track nailed down. Now, in terms of intensity on the models here, you can see there is a good cluster of models here in agreement on somewhere around category 2 to category 3 strength here. There's also a few models bringing it all the way up to category 4 strength. And of course, there's also a cluster of very weak models down here, only bringing it to tropical storm strength. So I'd say right now it's safe to say we're going to see anywhere from a category 1 to a low end category 3. That would be my best guess with this. Keep in mind, this is going between the Yucatan Peninsula and the western part of Cuba. It's going kind of cutting right through the middle of it. So any wobbles could kind of dictate what conditions this will face. If it wobbles to the east or the west and, interacts with any of that land in western Cuba or the Yucatan Peninsula, that could bring it a little bit weaker. And I think that's what we're seeing here on some of these models that only get it down to, tropical storm strength. However, if it's able to cut right between the two, which is what these models here are showing, it will be able to strengthen into a category 2, category 3, maybe even at the highest, the category 4 hurricane. So that's definitely something we want to be watching on the satellite over the next few days. Now, in terms of rainfall from this system, this is the latest GFS model. And keep in mind, this is not a high resolution model. This is a low resolution model. So this is not going to be, exactly the amounts that we're going to see from this. However, you can get the general idea with this. Towards the western coast of Florida here, you can see anywhere from 2, maybe to 4, even 5 inches of rain are going to be falling. Not going to be that big of a deal in terms of rainfall. The biggest issue with rain is going to be where the storm makes landfall, which on the GFS model looks to be the western part of the Big Bend area here. And that's where we could see 12 plus inches of rain And even further inland here in northern Georgia, that's, 6 to 8, maybe even getting up to 10 inches of random sunspots here in northern Georgia, southern Tennessee, northern South Carolina, and even western North Carolina. You guys could also be looking at a significant amount of rain from this. Just to show you guys what some of the high resolution hurricane models are showing, this is last night's run from one of the hurricane models. Now keep in mind, there are a lot of hurricane models, and this is only one run, so by no means am I saying this is going to happen, but it's just to give you guys an idea of what the winds could look like as the storm makes landfall. So this is 4 p.m. on Thursday, and as you can see, there is a pretty large swath here of winds in excess of 100 knots. The maximum wind on this map here in the top right, as you can see, is 119 knots, which would probably be a strong Category 3 hurricane at this point. It makes landfall around 5 or 6 p.m. You can see there's still some pretty strong wind speeds here, anywhere from 60 all the way maybe into 80 knots. And keep in mind, these are sustained winds. This is not counting the wind gusts. So obviously, the wind gusts are going to be a lot higher than this, especially along the coastal areas. As it continues to move inland, you can see 4 a.m. on Friday morning, these winds are still pretty bad. This would be a tropical storm, maybe even some hurricane force wind gusts in here. This is anywhere from 30, maybe all the way up to 50 or 60 knot sustained winds, not counting the wind gusts, all the way up in northern Georgia, South Carolina, even reaching North Carolina and Tennessee at this point. So even areas further away from the coast are still going to be seeing some pretty strong wind from this. Now, last but not least, taking a look at the peak storm surge forecast here from the National Hurricane Center. Areas in southwestern Florida, south of Englewood, you are expected to get 3 to 5 feet of storm surge. Areas in the Florida Keys, 1 to 3 feet of storm surge, nothing too crazy. However, as you go further north up the coast, areas in the Tampa Bay area, you guys could be seeing up to 9 feet of storm surge from this. So definitely not good if you were, in the Tampa Bay area or anywhere along the coast here, but especially in the Tampa Bay area, that is a good amount of storm surge, where it's going to be making landfall here in the Big Bend area, all the way up to 15 feet of storm surge, which is a pretty significant amount. And of course, you also have your area of the 10 to 12 feet of storm surge surrounding that. So on top of the strong winds, storm surge is definitely going to be a big problem, especially for coastal areas with this storm. So with that being said, that is pretty much going to do it for today's weather forecast video. I went over all the information on the storm, when you can expect the winds to arrive and to start feeling the impacts from the storm. I will have another video out tomorrow and Thursday to give you guys the latest information on the storm. There is still some time for stuff to change, so do make sure to check back tomorrow for what should hopefully be the final, significant update on the storm as you get the track nailed down overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning. And if you guys did enjoy this video, please remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. It helps get this forecast video out to more people, helps get people more aware of what's coming their way with this storm and what they can expect, and it also motivates you to make more videos like this. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, stay safe, and peace out.